So welcome back to Friday. For this case, we have another serial killer. As you imagine with any other serial killer cases I've covered, we have multiple cities. I'm going to tag Chicago in this one because that seems to be the case where she is the most active. Okay, so just a heads up on that. How doubt any of you heard of serial killer before? Apparently, she's referred to as the Black Widow, but there's like several Black Widow female murder cases out there, so it's not really an original title. And so if you somehow have heard of this case before, just let me know. I can't really say if you guys know anybody involved in this case, because this case happened in the early 1900s, so everybody that's involved pretty much is dead now. However, if you're related to anybody involved, I guess that's a better question. Definitely let me know, and let me know how you're related, by marriage, cousin, whatever. And so with that being said, I'm just going to quit my rambling and let's get started. So Louise Wolf was born in July 1868. When she's 16 years old, she winds up getting married to a man named Fred Brinkamp, who was 24, on April 2nd, 1895. They then move on to a farm and have 6 kids together. Fred dies and is legally declared a heart attack, even though later on, obviously you can imagine, Fred is believed to have been one of her victims. And she wants to go on and inherit $5,000, which obviously that's not a lot now, but back then you could do a lot with $5,000. So this next part is the reason why I actually chose to cover Louise. She apparently would go to the morgue, because obviously, you have to have training to even work in a morgue, right? She would go to the morgue where she didn't have the training, wasn't qualified, whenever somebody died, because I guess she was just listening around town whenever somebody in the city died, and she would go there and sometimes even pretend that she worked there, and would sometimes even do work for them for free, which I imagine they liked at first, because you're doing work for free, we ain't got to pay you. But eventually, when you're doing it every time somebody dies, it's a little too much, right? So then 2 of her kids, Cora, who's 8, and Florence, who's 3.5, they die. Remember, she had 6 kids, 2 were dead, now we got 4. Now, you a widow with 4 kids, now we got to move to Chicago, Illinois. So I guess apparently Fred had a daughter named Lillian, because apparently it said her stepdaughter, and the only husband we know that she has at the time is Fred. So apparently, stepdaughter Lillian dies January 21st, 1906. She gets remarried to a man by the name of Charles Vermillyea, which is where we know where at, so safe to assume she ain't getting married no more. So their marriage lasts 3 years before he dies, and she gets $1,000 and a house. So apparently, there's a guy by the name of Henry who apparently was fighting with Louise about the house, because apparently I guess he felt he was illegally entitled to the house. So then of course he dies. She would have a son by the name of Frank, who was 23. Apparently he would get divorced. And he would apparently get re-engaged, I guess, and was telling his fiance, look, I think I'm about to die the way my father Fred did. So then he dies, and she wants to get $1,200 from his death, which apparently was the same amount of money he got from his divorce. So then on January 17th, 1910, there's a man by the name of Jason Rupert, who apparently was a firefighter. He dies after having dinner with Louise 2 nights before. So had dinner on the 15th, dies on the 17th. She marries a man by the name of Richard Smith in February 1910. Richard apparently dies in March, so less than a month after being married. And apparently, legally, he was still married to the first wife. So the marriage between him and Louise was actually invalid, because apparently you can't be married to 2 people at the same time. So then in October of 1911, Louise apparently was actually having dinner with Arthur Bissonnet and his father. And apparently Arthur would get sick, and the father would tell police that he saw Louise pour some white powder into both their foods. Arthur, of course, dies, and then his cause of death is ruled as arsenic. Louise is arrested because now you done killed somebody with arsenic. So now, apparently, before she gets arrested, she apparently poisons herself on November 4th. She stays in the hospital until November 24th. So a full 20 days. Obviously, once you get out of the hospital, you're going to jail. So then apparently, all the bodies from her believed victims are exhumed, and all of them have arsenic. So now you're a whole serial killer. And apparently, she tried to attempt suicide again while in jail. So her first trial was also on a hung jury. Apparently, she's released from jail June 28th, 1913, due to poor health, which is another reason I chose this case, because they literally released her due to poor health. When normally, modern day, you get old and sick and you die in jail, oh well, you're just going to stay there until you die. But I guess it was like a compassion release, essentially. And then apparently she died New Year's Eve of 1913. So this is where she dies. And then apparently in 1915, even though this woman's already dead, they tried to see, can we still legally charge her with anything, even though she's no longer here with us? And of course, her being dead, they're like, there's really no point, so drop the case entirely. So yeah, that's the case of Louise Vermillyea. Like I said, if you've heard this case before, definitely know. And so with that being said, I cover females 3 times a week. Subscribe for more failed females. I'll see you guys next one. Bye.
So if I play dead, will you regret everything that you did, that you said? I don't think you understand what you're doing. And my heart's black and blue from